Now it's time to choose or set up a world. Let's go into the play button. And here you can see access to many menus. So the first thing I'll show you is there's a view library here. When you view library, this takes you to all the Minecraft EDU lessons, builds, biomes, all those things. You can go in and look for certain things that you're looking for. And all you would do is you would click on whatever it is you want. You can see there's a lot in here. It gives you a rundown of descriptions, learning objectives, what you need to do. So basically what happens when I click create this world, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to open up the world right away before you do any settings. But the other thing it's going to do, it's going to put it in your templates. And I'll show that as well. So there you go. There's the world. So simply all I'm going to do is hit the escape button and save and exit. Now what happens is you can see, oh, there's the area and volume. It's saved in my worlds, but it also saved as a template, which means when I go to my create new, it's going to be saved right in there. And there you can see area and volume saved as a template. So let's start from scratch though. We're going to create a brand new world. Now, once again, if you create that world, you could go to templates. Now, with the block of grass, this is the world you kind of want when you're doing creativity, meaning there's no mountains, there's no minings, there's nothing in there. It's just them building. This is typically the one we go to. Now, you can either go there, but before you hit play, that's going to take you right into the world, or host, which means you're opening up the world and you get a join code. We're going to go to create new. The reason why we do this is because it's going to open up the game settings that we want to hit before we begin our world. This is super important because you can turn things on and off before your students get in there. So let's go through a bunch of these. There are a lot. The first you want to do, because you're probably going to be making a lot of worlds, is of course change that world name when it saves. First thing you're going to notice is the default game mode is set to creative. Creative is when you want the students to focus on building, using blocks, creating things, whatever. But if you go to survival, survival is going to be basically they get nothing and they have to go mine the wood to make the axe. They have to go mine minerals to create fire. And also, surprise, surprise, there's lots of things in there that may try and hurt their survival called mobs. Adventure is a setting where the kids can go into your world and experience your world, but they can't really build or destroy anything. But if you have buttons or levers, they can go in there and flip those on and off. So I usually leave it on creative. And then difficult level is usually peaceful, but under creative, it doesn't really matter. Now, the next thing you can choose is when you host a world, you can choose how they come in here. So if they come in as a visitor, they can't really destroy or do anything. But the problem is they can't interact with blocks either. So you typically want to do things like be a member where they can activate stuff. Once you get in the game, we can turn something called immutable world, which means they can't destroy things either, but they can still interact with things. As I keep going down the list, so you can see the distance. I have the 4 chunks, the lowest. This is an important one. I always show the coordinates because this tells you where you are in the world. So if a student says I'm lost or you're lost, you can look at the coordinates in the world and we'll learn how to teleport and do things like that so we can know exactly where we are. There are cheats, code builders. I always click always day on so it doesn't turn night, which is really handy. But down here we have something called classroom settings. When I turn that on, we get a series of other options here. So lots of things that I do. I turn on perfect weather so the students don't have to deal with rain or anything like that. And then these are the big ones right here. Allow mobs. That means spawning monsters and creatures that basically want to hurt you all the time. But this also includes if you want to spawn pigs or cows. So you have to have that on or off depending when I start because I want to focus on building. I turn that off. I also definitely turn off destructive items, meaning the students can't get TNT and accidentally blow up their builds or other people's builds. And then I also turn off player damage. Okay, so when you get into here, this is where I was talking about immutable world, where students can interact, but they can't build or destroy. And I'll show you that a little bit later. So usually I have that on to start with, and we can change that setting as we play. So those are the main settings that I want. Then I choose whether I want to host or whether I want to play. So I want to play, and that's going to load up my world and take me into the world ready to go. Now, the good news is, don't think that because you create your world, those settings are stuck as is. You can change them at any time. To change them, all you do is hit the escape button, and you can see the settings are right there. You can go back into them. and it just takes you to that main menu that we were at before, where you can choose all those different things. You can change your video and your audio in there too, so remember that bobbing head, the music playing, all that stuff, you can change that as you go along. And you sit back and resume game. So now you're in the world and you're ready to play.